Hello again, year 4. Hopefully, fingers crossed, better luck with maths today. So, let's start by sharing my screen here. Can you, just as a quick starter, calculate the perimeter of my rectangle? Hopefully you were still able to see the video yesterday, so you could recap these skills. Have a go at calculating the perimeter before we move on to area. Okay, hopefully you managed to see that my left hand length here and my right hand side length were both 3 centimeters. And then my top width and my bottom width were 10 centimeters each. So we add those up to give us a combined 26 centimeters for the perimeter of that rectangle. Area though, what is area? The area is the space occupied inside a shape. The perimeter we counted outside, because you sort of walk the perimeter of something, it means you walk around it. Area is everything inside. So we're still going to be counting boxes today, but we're going to be counting the boxes, the squares, inside a given shape instead of outside and around. For example, this rectangle here, I have literally just counted the squares. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on and so on and so on until I finally reach my final column here, 19, 20, 21. So the area for this particular rectangle is 21 centimeters squared because it has 21 squares inside of it. It has 21 boxes. Okay? 21 centimeters squared. This squared here is really, really important. We don't need it for perimeter, but any answer we're given with area, it must be squared. Don't forget that little 2 at the top after the centimeters. How can we save time when calculating the area of a rectangle? I want you to be thinking about that question whilst I show you another method of counting squares to calculate the area of a regular shape. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to count another row of 6, and I'm going to put my dots in for another row of 6, and another row of 6, and another row of 6. And then I can add them all up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. So the area for this particular rectangle is 30 centimeters squared. But can anyone think of a way to calculate that a little bit more efficiently, a little bit quicker? What we could do is we can count how many squares there are across in a row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Brilliant. I have one row of 6. And then I can figure out how many rows there are in total. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different rows. So there's 6 per row and there's 5 rows. So instead of counting every single one, I'm going to do 6 lots of 5 or 5 lots of 6. So 6 times 5 gives me 30 centimeters squared. That's something we're going to be looking at in a bit more detail tomorrow. For today, I want you to use the counting square method. Okay? What's the area of this rectangle here? If you want to, you can pause the video and count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and so on. Or you can count how many squares there are across, and then how many rows there are that I need to multiply that by to give me the area. So hopefully if you did that, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 per row, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows. So 5 lots of 9 gives me 45. So the area for this rectangle is 45 centimeters squared. Don't forget that squared, the little 2 at the top there. Quick recap, if we're trying to convert from centimeters to millimeters, what we need to do is we need to multiply by 10 because there are 10 millimeters in 1 centimeter. You can use your ruler to reflect on that knowledge. So now it's your turn. Use the squares to work out the area of each shape. I'm going to move on to your questions now. I'm not going to take up too much of your time speaking. I'm just going to say this here and then pause it for each question. Calculate the area of these regular shapes. There aren't different activities today, but the questions start to get harder as you go along. Do as much as you can without support to push your learning. Remember, if you go to Classroom Resources, that page, you'll find lots of different resources in maths, like a multiplication grid to help you with your times tables. So here is your first set of questions. Calculate the area for all of these different shapes. Remember, you're just counting the squares in them. And your answers are coming up. So 1, 2, 3, 4 centimeters squared, 10 centimeters squared, 4 centimeters squared, because this is 2 by 2, but this is 1 by 4. And then we have 18 centimeters squared, 8 centimeters squared, and finally we have 16 centimeters squared. Well done if you answered those accurately. Let's move on. Larger shapes, we're expecting a larger area because there's clearly more space occupied within those shapes. So can you pause the video here and try to calculate the area of these 3 shapes? Okay, so 49 centimeters squared. You could have put all of those dots in there, or 7 by 7. 40 centimeters squared, you could have done 10 by 4 or put your dots in like I asked, brilliant. And then 1 by 9, so 9 centimeters squared. If you've still got time, try these next few questions. Think carefully about this. Here is a 1 centimeter square grid. Some of the grid is shaded. What is the area that is shaded? Think carefully about these squares. So pause the video, answer, and check your answers on the next slide. Okay, so I counted the squares that are shaded and full, and that gave me 10. What I then did was I counted these 2 halves. That's half a square shaded, and that's half a square shaded. And 2 halves make 1 whole. And I did the same for these 2 halves here. So 10 plus 1 plus 1 gives me a total of 12 centimeters squared. Double thumbs up if you managed to get that correct. Here's another one. Tip here is to fill in the blanks. Try and connect the lines to make it a lot easier to calculate the area. So here is a set of 20 squares around a shaded space. What is the area? Pause it here, find the answer on the next slide. So I've connected my lines horizontally going across, and then I connected my lines vertically going up and down. And then that made it a lot easier for me just to count the squares. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 are shaded in total, so my area of this irregular shape is 11 centimeters squared. Well done if you managed to do that accurately as we went along. Hopefully you all were able to access the questions today. We obviously had difficulties yesterday, so well done for staying resilient. Have a great remainder of your morning.